welcome back to the channel. Today I've brought the chapter Enemy and I'll be discussing three important questions from this chapter. So I'll be discussing title, I'll be discussing the theme, and I'll be discussing the character sketch. The Enemy chapter, it's written by Pearl S. Buck. Now quickly I'll be moving on to the title first. So here we have the title. So the story The Enemy is set during World War II. Japan and America, they were on the opposite sides. So amidst love for one's country, now this is important, love for one's country, then feelings of patriotism, loyalty to the flag, and duty towards profession. The concept of enemy is developed by the author Pearl S. Buck. So the concept of enemy, it is developed keeping all these things in the background. So love for one's country, then feelings of patriotism, loyalty to the flag, and duty towards profession. Now, amidst all these positive things, a concept of enemy has been developed. So this concept of enemy, it straight away points to the title because the title is The Enemy. Now, when we are discussing the title for its aptness, so every incident in the story that points towards that title, we should take up that incident. So here we are going to do that only. So what happens in the story? The American prisoner of war, he is the enemy of Sadao family. Now, why he is the enemy? There's no personal enmity, but he is the enemy of Sadao family because of being white and American nationalist. So here we have the reason, white and he's the American nationalist. So they're prejudiced. So prejudice is the reason. Now, why they are prejudiced? We come to know in the story that Dr. Sadao has spent almost 8 years in America, and there he had to go through this discrimination and this racism. So there is prejudice because of this. So their prejudice towards the enemy initially keeps them from attending to his wounds. Even the servants, they disapprove. So even the servants, they disapprove of the presence of the American enemy in the house. So the enemy, again, it is giving rise to the disapproval of the servants, and because of which the servants, they quit. So again, it is pointing that the reason is the enemy. So the servants, they disapprove of the presence of the American enemy in the house and show their loyalty to their country by quitting the job. The enemy becomes the reason of Sadao's guilt. So enemy again becomes the reason because Sadao is going through guilt. Now guilt is whether he should show his love for his country or he should perform his duty. So for if he saves the enemy, he'll go against his country. However, good sense prevails and the doctor treats the enemy. So however, after a lot of dilemma, the doctor, he treats the enemy. There's good sense. So in the end, the enemy brings out the essential goodness. So the enemy actually brings out that humanity inside the doctor. So he brings out the essential goodness of the couple who place their duty towards a human being first than the duty towards the country. But what happens even after they treat the enemy does not become their friend. He is still an enemy. So even though the enemy is treated, he's not considered as a friend at any point. He enters their life as an enemy and he leaves on the same note. So hence the title is justified. So like this, we have to justify the title, giving up all the incidents from the story that are pointing towards it. Now we move on to the next question. So next question before that, here are a few videos that you can watch for your preparation. Mind map of Aunt Jennifer's tigers, then report writing, and other videos you can take up from the playlist. So I have given the link of these two in the description box. Now, next one is the theme. So here are the 4 points on the basis of which I'll be discussing the theme. So there's dilemma. We find a dilemma throughout the story. Dr. Sadao is confused. He is confused between what is wrong and what is right for him. Then humanity. Humanity wins over political barriers. So this is one theme that reigns in the story. Then illogicality and worthlessness of war. So the author also points towards the worthlessness of war. There's no need of any kind of war between countries. The countries or the political authorities, the governments, they are at war with each other, and innocent people, they have nothing to do with it. Then fourth is shedding prejudices, discrimination, and becoming humans first. So these are the 4 points on the basis of which I'll be discussing the theme. So let's move on to the theme. So The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck, is a touching and heartrending story of an American prisoner of war who ends up on the shore in front of the house of Dr. Sadao. Dr. Sadao's confused mind. So the first point is here that, as I said, dilemma. So Dr. Sadao's confused mind oscillates between loyalty to his nation and duty towards profession. So this is the dilemma: loyalty to his nation and a duty towards his profession. His country is at war with the Americans, and how can he help his enemy? Very important question in his mind. How can he help his enemy? His country's enemy is his enemy. But the doctor inside him doesn't let him turn away from his professional duty. So there at one point, there is humanity ringing inside him. So that humanity doesn't let him turn away from his professional duty. So the story furthers with Hannah, Dr. Sadau's wife, who too is torn between helping or not helping the injured enemy, standing with her husband's decision to operate upon the man. So we find that Hannah is standing with her husband's decision to operate upon the man. Otherwise, she too is torn between. So she too is confused. Now, this confusion, it is because of prejudice. And the author relates these feelings of disapproval, the feelings of hatred and hostility towards the enemy to Dr. Sadau's past in America, as I said before. So his past in America, it wasn't a very good one. So where he had to deal with prejudice and racism. Now, while both of them, they try to reason their action that they are humans, and as a doctor, he has to help and has to treat the enemy. So on one side, they are trying logically to explain that no, since he is an enemy, so they should go and stand with their country. So amidst all this, it is compassion for a human being and call of duty that wins. So compassion wins and a call of duty that wins. So that means the second point here has come in. The second point, as I said, is humanity. So humanity wins over their prejudice. Then the suspicious looks on the face of the servants and fear of being caught as a traitor for hiding an enemy makes the situation complex for Dr. Sadau. Now, Dr. Sadau has treated the enemy, but still he is confused. The servants there, they know it and they are suspicious. So there's a fear inside Dr. Sadau that if servants, they leak this news and he is caught as a traitor, then what? So with this guilt, he tends to find some relief when the general plans to eliminate the enemy through his assassin. So he goes to the general and he tells everything. And then he's relieved when he finds the general towards his side. So at that point of time, for a while, his feelings of nationalism, they suppress his sincerity towards his patient who is at his mercy at that point of time. So at that point of time, his feelings of nationalism, they have overpowered the feelings of humanity. So, but those 3 nights when he waits for the assassins that the general has promised they will come to his house and they'll execute the enemy. So those 3 nights, they weigh heavy on his heart because the assassins, they do not come. And then he lets the enemy escape safely. So the enemy escapes, he helps the enemy to go from there. So thus the story unveils the frivolous consideration of people of warring countries as enemies. So frivolous consideration, the petty thing or petty reasons behind war. Actually, there is no reason to be at war with any country. So illogicality and worthlessness of war. So I'm sorry about that. Yes. So here we have worthlessness of war. So the author has given this theme also that a war, it is worthless. So this theme also comes in. So war between countries ends up to be war between people who do not even know each other. So the American and Dr. Sadau, they do not know each other, but still they consider, Dr. Sadau considers him as his enemy. So staunch patriotism, and narrow nationalism makes them heartless. So it becomes difficult for them to decide their side, whether to be with the country or with humanity. So with the escape of the enemy, the author beautifully concludes the story on an optimistic note, shunning war and rendering. So shunning war and rendering faith in kindness. So here we come to the 4th point that says you have to shun prejudices, and you have to consider humanity. So be humans first. So these are the 4 points that I've discussed in theme. So each point actually come as a separate question also. So you have to write according to the question that comes. Now we move on to the character sketch. But before the character sketch, here is a question for you. So would you call Dr. Sadau a traitor? So this is a question that you can send me the answer in the comment box. Would you call Dr. Sidao a traitor? So after everything that happened, so how would you treat Dr. Sidao? And before moving to the character sketch, so do subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and you can even follow me on Instagram and you can send me your queries there. So here I have the character sketch. Now, Dr. Sidao in the story is a man of integrity. So we find that he is a man of integrity, and integrity in different spheres. Integrity in relationship, integrity towards his profession, and integrity for his country also. So we find him to be an obedient son who never disobeys his father. So we are told in the story that he is an obedient son. He holds his father in high esteem, which is why he waits to ask Hana for marriage till he is sure of Hana's Japanese lineage, although he has fallen for her at the first sight. So Dr. Sidao is in love with Hana, but still he waits till he is confirmed that Hana is Japanese, because he knows that his father would not approve of Hana. Then he not only establishes himself as an expert surgeon in Japan after coming back from America, but also as a scientist. So as an expert surgeon and as a scientist. He is indispensable. Again, this is important. He is indispensable for the old general who doesn't have faith in any other surgeon for his operation. And this becomes the reason that he is not sent abroad with troops, as the general cannot take chances. So since general is suffering from a condition, so anytime he would need an operation, therefore he doesn't send him anywhere with the troops, but he keeps him back there in the city or with him. Then what happens? He is a good husband and father too. So he's a surgeon, he's a scientist, and he is a good husband and a father too. So he understands Hana's dilemma and discusses the course of action to be adopted with the American enemy with her. As a loving father, he takes care of his children. He takes care that the children, they are not harmed in any way. So though he is torn, there's dilemma between his professional duty and loyalty for his country. He chooses to help the injured American who would have died if he had not taken care of him. So this is important. He would have died. So we cannot call him a traitor now. We cannot call him a traitor because he performs his duty. And as a loyal citizen, then he goes and informs. He tells everything, whatever has happened to the general. Then he acts according to the plan of the general and waits for 3 nights for the assassins. But he remains restless throughout these nights, and then he decides to let the enemy escape. So he had given a chance to the general. He had shown his patriotic feelings towards his country by telling the truth to the general. So, but the general forgot and he did not send his assassins. So therefore, after waiting for 3 nights, he lets the enemy go safely. But he remains restless throughout these nights, and then he decides to let the enemy escape safely. He therefore values humanity as opposed to staunch patriotism, for which he wins the appreciation of the readers. So we like him for this action. Now he is quick-witted too. This is again important. He is quick-witted, as he is quick to understand that rather than being suspicious about a story of the escape of the enemy, the general believes it and considers it to be the result of his negligence. So general has thought that the enemy has escaped because of his negligence, and Dr. Sidao doesn't want to correct him or doesn't feel it correct to correct him. So thus in the end he is recognized as a good man by the general and the readers too. So this is the character sketch, and I hope that all these 3 questions, they are clear to you and you will be able to attempt them in your exams. So bye for now and happy preparation.